This is Dishin Dirt with Gary Pickren, South Carolina's only podcast dedicated to the real estate agent craft. And now, the host of Dishin Dirt, Gary Pickren.
Greetings, welcome back everyone to another episode of Dishin Dirt. I'm your often opinionated, rarely wrong host, Gary Pickren, coming to you from the beautiful downtown offices in Columbia, South Carolina of Blair, Cato, Pickering, Castellan, the third week of September. So yesterday on September the 17th, I was at Realtor Mania. What a wonderful event that SCR put together down in Wild Dunes on the Isle of Palms. And I recorded a live version of Dishin Dirt in front of about 300 realtors. And it was a lot of fun. I want to thank Nick Cremitis and Byron King for putting that together. And I had the pleasure of interviewing John Wachlowski. John is the head lawyer for NAR. And he's heading up all of their efforts post-Sitzer Burnett to reorganize the legal department at NAR to better serve its members, to better protect. And they are evaluating the loss mitigation issues that are still out there upon us. Everybody thinks that because Sitzer Burnett is over, that everything is done and we're all good to go. And John was talking about that and how NAR is out there protecting. We talk about clear cooperation, the three-way policy, the in-house listings. We talk about a lot of different topics that are on a lot of people's minds. And in about 45 minutes, we were able to get over as much as we could. My original goal was to publish that podcast here this morning on September the 18th. But because of NAR policy, I have to send the entire podcast to NAR for their legal team to look at it to make sure that it complies with their standards for NAR's approval. I totally understand that. I get that. Unfortunately, I was not able to get all that done, and they were able to review it in time to get it released here this week. And that's why this podcast is late. And number two, it's going to be a little bit shorter today because I'm just going to do an abbreviated version of Dishin Dirt for you today to give you all a couple of quick topics that we will dive a little bit more in depth. But I didn't want y'all to go without a podcast this week. I also want to thank all the nice people that came to Realtor Mania. I had a lot of real estate agents from places that we don't even have offices, like down in Charleston, come up to me and tell me how much they really enjoy Dishin Dirt and what it means to them. I have a couple of brokers who were telling me they publish it to their entire office every week and that they actually run it through ChatGTP and get the highlight points and send those points out to all of their agents. And so it was just really nice to hear everybody and how much they are enjoying Dishin Dirt. So we're going to keep pushing through with Dishin Dirt in the foreseeable future and continue to come up with hot legal topics that really do affect your business and how you transact what you're doing. And, as you know, our main goal here is to try to help you guys be best agents that you can be. Now, before we talk about what we're going to talk about briefly today, I do want to mention that we are having our Oktoberfest event. It's going to be on October 2nd. It's going to be over in Casey at the pickleball courts. And what we're doing this year for Oktoberfest is completely different than we've ever done. We're going to have a fun evening of pickleball. So if you like to play pickleball, and I know there's a lot of you out there that do, then you can come and play pickleball against fellow real estate agents. Now, if you hate pickleball or you're like, just don't want to play it, that's perfectly fine because you can come and heckle those who are playing pickleball because our event's going to be twofold. We're going to have the pickleball, but we're also going to have beer. We're going to have sausages and hamburgers that SIC Insurance is going to make for us. We're going to have Columbia Craft there. So we're going to have the same fun and enjoyment we always do. And of course, we're going to raise money for the South Carolina Military Family Care Association like we always do. Now, what we're going to do this year is we're going to have the special grudge match at the end of the night. Blair Cato, the partners of Blair Cato, are going to take on James Fleshman and Foundation Mortgage in a grudge match to see who is the best. Well, we already know that. James Fleshman and his group have absolutely no chance in this match. It's going to be embarrassing what we're going to do to them, but we're going to beat them in front of everybody just for fun. Now, how we'll raise money for the South Carolina Military Family Care Association is that you can buy a raffle ticket either for Blair Cato or for Foundation Mortgage. If you buy Blair Cato and Blair Cato wins, as you know we're going to, then you will go into a drawing for $2,000 cash money. If you go into the loser's bracket, meaning that you bought a Foundation Mortgage raffle ticket, then that goes into the loser's bracket for a drawing of $500. So win or lose, you can draw for $2,000 or $500 cash. That'll be the prizes. So we'll have a lot more information about how to buy the raffle tickets, what's going on about the event as well. So go ahead and put that on your calendar for October 2nd and watch us beat the crap and embarrass James Fleshman in front of all of y'all. So it'll be a lot of fun. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our real quick show today. As I mentioned, we're going to do a real short abbreviated version because this is being done on a Thursday morning. Usually I do these much earlier and spend a lot of time getting them done and cut. But today we'll talk about a couple things. Number one thing I want to talk about is these builder rules. At the convention yesterday, in addition to doing Dishin Dirt live on stage, I also served on a commissioners panel with David Burnett and John Reinhardt. And Austin Smallwood was our moderator, and he asked a bunch of questions about different things that were going on at the commission, different opinions and rulings that we had set out. One of the things we talked about was the builder rules. As y'all know, I did a podcast on this a couple of weeks ago where we talked about the role of a real estate agent for a builder. And so that was one of the questions that came up. One of the things that I reiterated was this: South Carolina has a real estate licensee code. It is 40-57. That is the law that governs real estate agents in South Carolina, what you can do, what you can't do, what your obligations are, your responsibilities, and so forth. The law, 4057, applies to every real estate licensee. It doesn't say just for licensees who resell houses. It doesn't say, well, if you're a commercial agent, this doesn't apply to you. It doesn't say if you're a builder agent, this doesn't apply to you. It applies to all real estate agents equally across the board. And that is one of the things when I go talk to commercial agents, I have to constantly remind them, you still have the same duties of under agency. You still have to get a listing agreement signed before you can market and advertise property. And, a lot of times when I talk to commercial brokers, they're like, well, that doesn't work for us. And I agree. I 100% agree that the statute is mainly written with residential resale real estate in mind. It certainly is. And I believe, and I'm an advocate of, that we should have a separate policy, a separate law for commercial real estate agents, because I think what a commercial real estate agent does and what a residential real estate agent does are vastly different beasts. In fact, I think we should have a different law, and I think we should have a different board. I think there should be a different real estate commission than the current real estate commission for commercial matters. Now, luckily, on the real estate commission, we do have a commercial real estate lawyer and a commercial real estate agent on there. So, and actually, I think there's two of them that actually do a lot of commercial work. So we actually have a lot of commercial experience on the commission to help deal with those matters, but they are very difficult. They're very different than a residential transaction. It just is. And it's very difficult to try to apply the law to those situations. The same applies for builder agents. There's no exception. There's no exemption. There's no carve out, if you will, for agents that primarily do builder transactions. They are governed by the same laws, the same rules, the same regulations that a resale agent is. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about how a builder agent has an obligation not to interfere with agency. I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind that if a buyer is represented by another agent and that buyer calls you off your sign or shows up to your house that you have listed, resale house, and shows up and says, I'd like to come in and see the house, no one doubts that you have an obligation, first of all, to not interfere with that agency. And then that obligation means that you've got to do a reasonable effort to determine whether or not they are working with another agent, whether there's an agency agreement. And that cannot be fulfilled by simply saying, are you working with an agent? And they say no, and you're good to go. We know that. The commission has said that it's not good enough. You have to do a reasonable inquiry to make sure, because the statute doesn't say ask a question. It says you shall not do it. So you have to make a reasonable effort not to do it. Reasonable effort would be asking questions. Have you seen some houses? Where are those houses? Well, how did you see? Who showed you those houses? Things of that nature. And the Real Estate Commission did a really good job of putting out a list of things that you can or should be asking rather. You've got to take that reasonable effort. That's no different in a builder situation. A builder agent has to take the same reasonable efforts. Just because you show up to their model home, they can't just assume you're not represented. You have to ask questions as a builder agent when somebody comes to the house and starts asking questions. You can't just start trying to sell the house because they may be in an agency relationship with an agent. And so the comment I made yesterday is, if a resale agent can't do it, why in the world do we think that a builder's agent can do it? That's still mind-blowing to me that builders and builders agents think that somehow it doesn't apply to them. I actually used the example, if David was my real estate agent and I showed up at a broker open house, the agent has to try to ascertain whether or not I'm represented. And once they find out that I am represented by David, that's the end of it. They're done. They can't go any further. They cannot show me the house and try to sell me the house. They can't talk about the contract. They can't do any of that stuff because I have an agency relationship with David, and David is there to protect me. He has a fiduciary duty to me. The agent has no fiduciary duty to me. They just have good faith and fair dealing, but they don't have any obligations to advise, counsel, and advocate. In fact, they can't do it because it creates dual agency for them. And so you, as a builder agent have to do the same thing that you would have to do in a resale situation. You cannot go beyond that. And I know that angers a lot of builders. I've actually heard where builders have told their agents, you still have to show my houses. I don't care what they say. Well, understand this. This is your license they are playing with, your license. And so when your builder tells you to ignore the law and just do it what I want you to do, they're doing it for themselves and not for you. That is going to go against your license. You're the one who's going to get punished for that. So you have got to be able to stand up and say no. So hopefully builders, and I know the good builders out there don't do this, so I don't worry about the good builders. I worry about the builders that aren't following the rules. We all have to follow the rules. Now, with that being said, there's always two sides to every story, right? And one of my best friends, actually, she introduced me to my wife, works for a big national builder. And she called me and said, but you're missing the other side of it. And I listened to her. I'm like, you're actually correct. The other side of this is, as a buyer's agent, you have a fiduciary duty to represent your buyer fully. And representing your buyer fully does not mean that you take them to the builder's office, model home, and say, here's my client, let me know what's going on, and leave. And I am understanding from a lot of builder agents that happens, that they literally say, oh, I love working with y'all because I don't have to do anything. I can just give you my client and leave. That is an absolute violation of your fiduciary duty. You must be involved in the transaction. Again, you as the buyer's agent represent the buyer's interests. You are there to advise them, advocate for them, counsel them, walk them through this transaction. Handing them over to the model home at the builder and say, all right, well, here's my client, bye, is a complete violation of your fiduciary duty. And if your client was to turn you in, I think you would have a lot of trouble. It is your duty to show up, be present, and represent your client. So do not drop your client off at a builder's office and just leave. Do not go to the builder's office and say, you take it from here, and just sit there like a bump on the log, never participating in the transaction. First of all, if you're trying to get more business and get people to think that you're a good agent, how does that work? I mean, if I'm representing a buyer and I show up at the builder's office and say, okay, Bob over here at the builder is going to take it from there, and I just sit there playing on my phone and not paying attention to what's going on, I am sitting there as a buyer going, why are you here and why are you getting paid anything? Bad look for you, and it violates your fiduciary duty. So keep in mind, builders must comply with the law. But if you want a builder to respect your agency, you want a builder agent to comply with the law, it's a two-sided coin. You can't ask and demand that they respect your agency at the same time when agents are simply dropping off clients and saying, you take it from here. And you know, as much as everybody thinks, well, that's how the builder wants it, a lot of the builder agents I've been talking to said that's not how we want it. It becomes a necessity because the buyer's agent doesn't do anything. And this is not the way that we want it either, because they get concerned about issues with dual agency and comments being heard that weren't really said. And that's why they need you there. They need you to be part of this transaction. So you do what your license requires of you and participate and be there. You have a fiduciary duty to your client. Now, to end today, let me talk real quickly about FinCEN. We talked about FinCEN a couple of weeks ago when Erica Librand came on. We are going to have to start doing some classes on FinCEN very quickly. It is coming upon us. Erica will be back on again here to talk about it and why it matters to real estate agents. A lot of people out here think FinCEN went away, including a lot of congressmen. And as you'll remember, Erica went to Washington, D.C., met with a lot of Congress people, and a lot of them said the same thing. Oh, I thought that was taken care of. There were two different parts of the FinCEN that related to real estate. One was having an interest in an LLC, having to report all of your interests. That tabled for a while. What we're talking about is the anti-money laundering laws, the AML as they call it. The anti-money laundering laws says that anytime we have a cash transaction or a transaction with a traditional lender, basically it's a lender that has like an MLS number or whatever, when you're dealing with a lender that's not registered through the AML, then you could possibly have a reporting issue. So if you're doing cash or non-traditional lending, third-party lending, and the property is going into the name of any type of entity, an LLC, a corporation, an S corp, partnership, whatever, or a trust, then you have this reporting to do. Now, here's the problem with that. There's no dollar value on this. Literally, if you are transferring your property from your name and your spouse's name into your family trust, that is considered a cash transaction into an entity. Now, FinCEN reporting is required. This is incredibly insane. Even doing a quit claim deed from yourself to your LLC. You've set up an LLC to hold all of your rental properties, and you get a lawyer to draft, or you try to draft a quit claim deed. Don't do that. And you put it in your LLC. That is considered a cash transaction where FinCEN has to be reported. There's no dollar value on this. It goes forever. Blair Cato, we do about 5,000 to 6,000 closings a year. We've already ascertained it's about 500 to 600 closings a year. We're going to have to do this FinCEN reporting on. It's 50 a month. That's 50 a month. That's a full-time employee just to do FinCEN reporting. That brings me to the second point. The second point of FinCEN reporting is it's not easy. The government itself says it's going to take at least an hour and a half to fill out the form once you have all the information. So the government's telling you it's going to take an hour and a half. You know it's going to be longer. It's going to be work. But that means you also have to collect all the information. Well, how bad is the collection of the information? Well, from every one of the buyers, we have to have a lot of information, Social Security number, date of birth, from their bank that they use for the transaction. We have to have all the banking information, account numbers, and so forth. But it goes even further than that. If it's an LLC or a trust, anybody that has any rights or signing authority has to also provide that information. It might be a situation where one spouse has the right to an authorization to bind the LLC to sign documents or whatever, but because the other spouse is a member of that LLC, they're going to have to provide their information, even though they're not involved in the transaction at all. The other one is if you have an attorney or an agent who signs on behalf of a builder or an investor, the person signing has to provide that information. If I represent ABC Builder and I sign their deeds for them and their settlement statements for them, which is what we've always done, I have to now provide all of my information in the FinCEN reporting. The FinCEN reporting is like 120 items you have to report. It is extremely onerous. And here's the rub. You cannot just go tell your client that you've never heard about this. You cannot go tell your client, well, just find another lawyer. I've never heard of a lawyer making you do this. We'll just find another lawyer. Every single lawyer in the country has to do this in the closing. Every one. And the statute's so vague is we're not really sure who has liability, how far it goes for not getting it done. The fines can go all the way up to like $10,000 per incident for not reporting it. And it says people that are responsible for the transaction. Well, people look at that and go, oh, that's the closing attorney, the title company. Well, that could also be the real estate agent. Talked to an NAR representative yesterday who said, well, we're looking at this could be a possible liability on the real estate agent because you are in some aspects responsible for the transaction. Therefore, it could come on to y'all. So we're going to spend some time in the next couple of weeks educating everybody so that you can have these conversations with your client. You can let your client know that when this happens, yes, you are going to have to provide this information. There's no way around it. You're not going to be the dumb real estate agent who goes, well, let's just go find another real estate lawyer and hope you can find some Yahoo who doesn't know what the law is and does it. Because all of this liability is going to come back on y'all. When the fines start happening, they're going to reach to you and say, you real estate agent told me I didn't have to do this, that I was using Blair Cato and you taught me into using this Yahoo lawyer who didn't know anything about it. And now I'm getting fined thousands and thousands of dollars. You need to pay it. So we got to be very, very careful about what advice we are giving out there and making sure that everybody is in full understanding of how bad this FinCEN law is going to be. So expect Erica to come back on Dishin Dirt. We're going to try to get with the Realtors Association and do some seminars on it locally, statewide, maybe nationwide. We'll do whatever we have to get the word out. We're hopeful still that there could be a delay of this. What we're hearing is the delay, if it will happen, would be very short in time for the government to get their act together, which is kind of funny because the government never does get its act together. And give title companies a little bit more time to get their reporting done. But it's not going to go away. We're going to have to deal with FinCEN, and it's going to be very, very onerous for every one of us. All right, that's our abbreviated show for today. Appreciate y'all tuning in, even though it was a little bit late posting. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Please like us, share us, subscribe to us, and come back another week for another episode of Dishin Dirt. We'll get right back on our regular schedule next week. I hope to have the seminar from SER posted next week for our podcast. If they can't get it approved at NAR in time, I'll just do another full-length podcast and then post that the week after. All right. Y'all have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you again for another episode of Dishin Dirt.